Hello, friends. Welcome back to the video on aura analysis. If you still haven't watched the coaching analysis video, please go watch that one first, because a lot of those concepts are going to be very relevant and similar across the board with the aura analysis. And there's just no use in us repeating the same stuff twice. So, are you ready to have your aura scanned?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay, well, before we go in to scan Fernanda's aura, it's important to understand what it is that we're doing. I'm sure you've heard the term aura before. And the definition of aura is a little bit different in the way that Healy accesses it. Healy uses a quantum sensor to analyze within the frequency resonance databases where it is that you have the highest relevance or resonance. Another way to say that is it analyzes the energy distribution of the 7 chakras in the information field. If that's a little bit over your head, don't worry, we're going to break this down. So the esoteric definition of aura is something like that it's a luminous reflection of the energy field around you. And it's electromagnetic in nature and connected to your energy body. The Healy definition of aura is slightly different. It connects to the quantum or to the information field in order to retrieve the levels of energy within your 7 chakra system. Pretty cool. In other words, it's a measurement of the direct and instantaneous flow of energy into your chakras from the quantum. And you can even visualize that as we're about to do a scan and see where Fernanda needs potentially a little bit of a tune-up. The way that I imagine it, it's like the quantum is sending me, it's like filling me up in the areas where my aura could use a little more voluptuousness. It's also very, very, very sensitive to your intention and to your attention. I haven't seen this as much as with the aura, with any other modules within Healy. So really, when you're doing the aura scan, you have to be super present and think of exactly the manifestation, the issue that you're dealing with. So to give a quick example of a throat, if you're working with the throat chakra, is your intention related to using your voice and maybe a presentation that you're giving the next day? Or do you have a sore throat? Very different intention, still stuck in your Vishuddha, in your throat chakra. The focus with the aura scan is on stabilizing your field. Okay, so we're about to look at the distribution of energy in Fernanda's chakras right now. So she's a little disclaimer. She's a little bit under the weather. So we'll see what comes up here.
I'm excited to see actually what does come up.
Okay. You passed. No.
I passed. What does that mean? Tell me, give me all the, it's interesting that I've not used the aura analysis. I've had my Healy for months and months, and this is basically the first time that I'm doing an analysis with knowing what I'm looking at. So,
Well, I'll just tell you now that this is the best aura scan that I've seen.
Really?
Yes, it is. You don't need much of a tune-up. So basically, we know that there are thousands of patterns going on in our auric field within our chakras. Some people say chakras. I say chakras. But Healy will give you 3 patterns per chakra. And it, again, depends on your intentions and your higher consciousness. So this is time for us to ask right now, what are the energy patterns that are causing the disturbance in these chakras? For the ease of the scan, we can keep to the ones that Healy determined are most relevant for you in this moment. We could also check them all off manually. So maybe for the purpose of just keeping it nice and easy, we can keep it to these three right now. And at this moment, I would ask you to just maybe close your eyes and tune into your crown chakra, your solar plexus, and your root.
Okay.
And so what Fernanda is doing right now, she may be thinking of something specific that's going on related to each chakra, if she has some basic understanding of what root, solar plexus, and crown, kind of what their major functions are in the way that our life unfolds. But she could also just tune into even the energetic centers as to like where they're located in the body. So she might be thinking right now where her root chakra is, so somewhere bottom of the spine, the plexus, and maybe you could even place your hand on the solar plexus beneath the breasts, and your crown, just visualizing that area barely above your head. We're going to go ahead and start the analysis. You'll notice that the focus here cannot be changed, unlike with the coaching app. So the focus is always my aura is strong and stable. And you'll also notice the number 3, and that is because Healy gives you 3 patterns per chakra. We also have this little option at the bottom, include high negative relevancy. So what is that? And do we want to turn that on or not? That is patterns of energy that Fernanda might not be fully conscious of.
Turn it on.
Here we go. I find that the output from the aura analysis is more in depth than even the coaching analysis. So when you decide to run an aura scan, it's a really good idea to make some time to actually read through this stuff. These are also really wonderful basic scans to do for someone whom you're introducing to Healy and maybe don't know them maybe very well, or you just want to give them a general overview with what's going on with them rather than diving deep and being like, okay, so what are you working on right now? Or do you want more money? Do you want to manifest a partner? Like what, instead of doing a whole coaching session, you can just be like, hey, okay, well, let's see where your aura is at. Let's do an aura analysis. And it will give very, very in-depth clues as to what might be going on. So again, you will see a similar pattern of numbers and potencies and all that stuff.
I'm just kind of in shock as I'm reading this first chakra one here because, yeah, I mean, it's different for everybody, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Emotional extortion was felt through motherly love. This is so ironic because before we even hopped on to record, my mom and I got off a phone call where there were all these things that were just, there was issues that came up and we're in the healing process, but it's just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with money and it has to do with fear of spending money and all of these things.
Wow. Yeah. And let's also notice that it says 1E6. If we quickly consult this chart right here, which we went into more depth in the coaching module, you see 1E6 karmic comes from another incarnation. Wow. So here's an additional layer of information for Fernanda. that, and so 90% relevancy, this means that she can read through the words and be pretty sure that they're quite spot on in the way that they describe what's happening. Okay. So there's your crown, some father stuff coming up.
Oh.
So you might be asking, why am I seeing root come up and then crown and then root? It's because it's showing you results based on relevancy. You can click the little tab in the top right corner here and choose a different way for it to display your results.
I love that I'm the guinea pig. Wait, sexual eroticism is perceived as safety. Ooh.
Pretty juicy. Okay, so if we remember what C, potency, means, this is stuff happening in the emotional body where emotional charge not expressed when the event happened needs to be expressed, is wanting to be expressed.
Hmm. Ooh, that's a good one. It's just a beautiful read. I love it. It's so interesting because I've shared in this community that when I first started with Healy, I had just left a marriage. I was on child support and food stamps and all the things. And I have now stepped into a whole different phase. And money is coming into my life through this work that I'm doing with Healy. And it's tingling people in my community. It's my mother, especially, and stepfather. So I find it so interesting that this scan is picking up on this like new level of expansion and what it's actually doing to the people in my field as well and how it's affecting them.
So here's money in abundance coming up. Mm. And interesting that it's in the root, right? Safety.
Okay. Oh, I've used sexuality to gain control. Maybe.
Remember, we clicked off negative relevancies, which means this is stuff that you might not be aware of.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, the whole world knows that I'm separated, but are we?
Right. And another thing to consider is you see it's 47%. And so how I understand it, it means that the words don't exactly describe what it's trying to tell you.
Yeah.
So don't, in other words, don't take it word for word, but more take in the essence. So it's not that you literally are, in this case, learn to use sexuality to gain control. It can be much more subtle than that. And so you might look at these words and be like, this doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't, because the energetics of what's going on in your solar plexus is pointing to this frequency conglomeration, but the words don't quite fit.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel controlled by my mother. So if you do this scan for somebody, you would send it to them?
That's right.
And then vibrate it to them, yeah?
That's right, exactly.
What? The person lacks the belief in a higher intelligence like the solar god. Is that a negative one? Because I totally believe in the solar. Yeah,
it is a negative one. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So there's just currents that.
Yeah.
That, I mean, you might not, want to click that off. And a lot of times stuff will come up on Aura and I'm just like, bullshit. This doesn't resonate with me at all. And then I'll have a dream come that night that unlocks another layer. And I'm like, okay, I see. It wasn't that it was relevant word for word, but I can totally see a pattern that is just not part of my daily, what's on my radar. Just like in my other example, when all of that fear of death and panic and all that stuff came up, and I felt like it was just too much and not relevant. But then
Yeah, and I'm sitting here with this one too. It's just interesting because I teach on the soul. Like I love the soul. To me is God, and or a part of. And I'm just sitting here thinking about how it's so easy for me to teach on these things, but to then practice them and incorporate them in my life, that's where I feel like I could do a better job of believing in my own soul as a higher intelligence. So yeah, I kind of see how that could apply. So interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it's the pendulum swinging, right? Like we could be so fully embodied in a beautiful understanding or a beautiful harmony with something, but then there's always kind of like the other side of the coin, or an opposite energy that can be alive in us in some way.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and send you this PDF.
That's me.
I had an interesting conversation with Annie about this. She did an aura scan for a few women, and she's like, there's been times where a woman will be like, I don't like this. This is not me. It doesn't apply. And then sometime later she'll come and buy a Healy because she's like, actually, it was really accurate. I just don't want to talk about it.
Well, how committed that just points to how committed we are to doing the work, I think. Sometimes we're in deep levels of resistance to it. And then other times we're like, okay, give me the gritty stuff here. I want to do the work. And it just depends on where we're at, subconsciously or, unconsciously or consciously sometimes.
So if you notice, because we've been sitting here and chatting a while, my Healy turned off. In order to kind of reactivate it, I just had to follow the steps I turned it on so that it was searchable once again by my device. So that's it. That's the basics of aura analysis.
I know we're both just like reading it. We're like, give us information, Healy.
Yeah, and I've had experiences where like I feel like I'm a person who moves through the world with such an open heart. If there's any of my chakras that I would think was really fucking strong, it's my heart chakra that's so open. And I've had scans come up where my heart is at 43%. And I'm just like, what? What does this mean? But then if we rethink what this means, and that we could really use a tune-up, it's like we don't really know. Maybe something is heavy on your heart. You have a beautiful heart, but there's an issue that is achy on your heart, which is why the intention really matters. So it's not like, oh, your heart chakra is out of balance, but no, what intention did you hold, and how can you now allow the energy from the quantum fields to pour love, light, understanding, inner standing.
Wow. And when you said, oh wow, this is one of the best aura scans I've seen, is it because most of those were almost to 90?
Yeah. So to me, it means that there's not much of a tune-up that you need in whatever intention you were holding.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my understanding of it. Someone else could interpret that very differently. And because we're looking at the distribution of energy, right? Like, what does that mean? Distribution of energy in the chakras.
Yeah. And I wonder too, I'm running right here. I have the Mag Healy running on a regeneration program. I wonder if that affects. I wasn't going to be like, hey, everybody, I'm running a Mag Healy program right now, but I wonder if that affected it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, is it really that good all the time? Or is it just because I'm running a program right now?
Guys, this is not scripted, okay? We didn't know. But interesting. It very well could be.
Yeah.
The
I'm
only way
ready.
to find out is to relive this entire day exactly the way that you've lived it, groundhog style, without a Meg Healy under your sweater.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I know you even gave the warning. She's been sick. She's been sick. And then they're all at 90. It's funny.
So good. Okay, beautiful people. That was the Aura scan. Have so much fun. Let us know how it goes.
Mwah.